Welcome to Chess in the 21st Century. As you all know, in fact, I think you do know, well, when other grandmasters do this class, they do it wrong, okay, because they're stupid. Okay, they're not all stupid. Wait a minute, hold on. No, they're all stupid. Okay, so they look at games that were played in the 21st century. Ridiculous. I look at games for people who were born in the 21st century. The games could have been played last century, I don't care. Okay, the kids are confused. All right, and the people at home are like, wait a minute. All right, now this is subtitled The Simpsons Lecture. There's very little Simpsons, but there'll be a lot of blank jokes. And fill in the blank is Trump, of course. Okay, those are all bridge jokes, right? Like spades and hearts are Trump, diamonds. Okay, now the first episode of The Simpsons that was not a Christmas episode was called, let's call it a random person. Spencer, you know the name of the episode?
It's not the Christmas episode.
No, that was not the Christmas, that's what I mean, was not. Bart the Genius, very good. I believe it was 1988. I could be off by a year, but only by a year. I'm not off by more than a year. I didn't prepare the Simpsons part of the lecture because that wouldn't be fair. I'll just do it off the cuff. In Bart the Genius, Bart is taking a test and doing his usual, and he's getting every question wrong. However, he notices Martin Prince finished the test in like 1 minute. Martin's the smart kid. So Bart took Martin's paper and erased Martin and wrote Bart Simpson. So all of a sudden, Bart was a genius because he put his name on Martin's paper. Okay, now Bart Simpson went to a special school for smart kids because they thought he had Martin Prince's answers. Anyway, one of the kids walking around had a lunchbox, and there was a picture of an old man, like Einstein, and it said Karpov on it. So that was the first chess reference in The Simpsons, the first episode. Okay, and there's many others which we'll discuss throughout the lecture. And then I'll get funny text from Lulu and Spencer. Okay, now what I wanted to do was talk about girls in chess, because we have a lot of girls here. 3 girls in the lecture and 1 coming in right now. I've never seen such a thing, and I knew it was going to happen when I prepared the lecture. Okay, and we're going to talk about juniors, obviously, because it's chess in the 21st century. And the 2 juniors I want to talk about today are Annie Wang and Jennifer Yu. Possibly it's pronounced Wang, but I'll pronounce it Wang because I'm American. What do I know? Our names don't mean nothing. I can't say the actual line because I'll get in trouble. Okay, but if you watch Pulp Fiction, which you're never allowed to do ever, then you'll understand the joke. Okay, now Annie Wang, I believe, is 14. But she could be another age, like 13 or 15. And in any case, she was born in this century, so that's all that matters. Now, the games I'm going to show you were played in the last 2 U.S. Women's Championships. This one, Annie was black in her first U.S. Women's against Tatev Abrahamyan, who's played in at least 10 U.S. Women's Championships. I can't show her games because she wasn't born this century, so we're not going to look at her moves. We're going to skip. So Ben, here's what I want you to do. Because ChessBase doesn't work this way, every time I make a move for white, edit that out. Because she wasn't born this century, we can't look at her moves. Now, I have to tell you a funny story because it kills time. Most of my students, when I ask them to show me their games, they're like, oh, here's a game I played. Okay, my opponent played here, and then I played this. Here's why I played this. Then my opponent went here, and I played this. Every move their opponent made, they're like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, did you look at other moves? And they're like, what? I'm just showing you the game, leave me alone. So people, if you want to get better, you have to look at your opponent's moves. So therefore, Ben Simon, you can't edit it out. You can't do it. Okay, so Tatev was white, and she played e4. Now this is actually very funny because we have some reverse psychology here, right? And Jenna's always saying that to me. I'm always at the chess club, working on my chess game, doing lots of chess work, doing other people's work, and Jenna's like, yo, I have some questions about reverse psychology. And I'm like, can you stop? I'm working, right? Isn't that what happened? Yeah, see, she admitted it, but you didn't hear. Okay, and everybody who knows Tatev, we'll call in a random person, Spencer. What does Tatev play here with black?
The French.
She plays the French, e6, and she's made videos on the French. Now, she psyched herself out in the last round of this year's U.S. Women's Championship. Good thing Alejandro's not here, or Friedel, because Everybody knew she was going to play the French, so she played the Sicilian. And then she got crushed, and it cost her the US Women's Championship and a lot of money. Everybody thought she'd play the French. Well, Annie Wang played the French against Tatev, who always plays the French and writes articles and makes videos about it. Now in this position, Annie Wang, who's not a very tall person, therefore she played a move recommended by short. Spencer?
A6.
No, that's a normal move. Yeah, I think Nigel played this, everybody laughed at it, and then he won. H6, right? Okay, now H6 is very suspicious. The point of H6 is it puts white on the move. And usually if you want to make a waiting move here, you play either bishop E7 or A6. If you don't want to make a waiting move, you take on E4 or play C5. Although I've played knight C6, but that attacks the pawns, that's crazy. And the most common move is probably knight F6. Okay, after H6, white has to make a move. Now, one of the things that white often does in the French, after playing the move E5, is plays F4, and then moves this knight to F3. This knight doesn't want to be in front of the bishop. So the knight's not going here, unless you're playing in the Wednesday nights, then 50-50. Yeah, it's not going back here. So the knight often goes here. So the problem with white playing knight F3, the most logical move, is then the other knight can't go to F3, and the bishop on C1 is blocked. So H6 is a waiting move, saying, I dare you to move. If white plays the advanced French, then why is white's knight on D2? That's not the best square for it. Okay, so H6 just says, I dare you to move. And white did play knight F3, knight F6, bishop D3. Of course, if black had played knight F6 instead of H6 in this position, then white would have played E5, and white doesn't have to play knight G-F3. White can put the other knight on F3, and the bishop on C1 could eventually get out. So instead of playing E5 here and wondering what to do with this knight, white played bishop to D3 and was hoping that if black takes, white can take with the knight, and then the bishop on C1 can move. Now actually H6 makes a little sense, because the bishop can't really go to G5, again, unless it's the knights tournament, then who knows what they're doing. Okay, sorry I'm grouchy about the knights, but I just annotated 10 games from the knights. Ugh, that was a lot of question mark usage there. Okay, so C5. Now if I was white and I was playing Tarrasch, you can look this up on the internet maybe, I would play queen E2, and after C4 I would go, oh. Okay, I did that once in the National Open. I think it was 2005, but it could have been 1995. It's one of them. Anyway, if you find the game Tarrasch, black against me on the internet, I did lose material that way, so then I resigned. Okay, so Tatev took. Now everybody in the world takes with the E-pawn, but that's why this is chess of the 21st century, because Annie took with the knight. Okay, and well, these annotations are by Alejandro, which means they're very suspicious, but I don't know, I think knight takes is okay. Okay, castles, I think I think white, he'll edit that out, has a slight lead in development, right? 4 is more than 1? Yeah, because black made this pawn move, and black moved the knight twice, I made another pawn move, and white's just moving pieces and castling. So obviously white has a better position. Knight to D7, developing a piece, a crazy idea. The problem is, what's that?
Why does it say 491?
That's a secret. It's also a secret from me.
It's the number of seconds they used on the move, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, maybe. Now, the bishop on C1 would like to get out, but even if it could move, then I don't know, where would it go? G5 is not good, F4 is not good, H6 isn't good, E3, eh. So, yeah, this knight D5 is pretty good. It's keeping this bishop at bay. The knight is blocking the bishop. So eventually, black's going to catch up and take advantage in development. Now, I haven't talked about The Simpsons in a long time, so this is a good opportunity, because it's a Simpsons lecture. There's an episode in The Simpsons where they play putt-putt golf because Homer makes Bart do it. Bart doesn't want to do it, but he has to beat Rod and or Todd. Was it Rod or Todd, Spencer? Todd? I think it was Todd. Anyway, so Homer is giving him all kinds of pep talks. You got to beat Todd and so forth. And Bart doesn't want to play, so he's sad in his room, and he talks to Lisa and says, Lisa, I'm like one of those pieces in chess that doesn't matter. And Lisa said, well, a blockaded bishop is of little value, but I think you're talking about a pawn. Okay, and as you can see, this bishop, which is blockaded for the moment, will eventually be great. This bishop's no great bishop either. So maybe Lisa was right. Okay, so knight e4, unblocking the bishop. Hooray. Bishop e7, a3. What's the idea of a3? Anybody? You can raise your hand at home. Okay, I'm going to call on you at home. No, that's wrong. Okay, you, Luke. It prevents knight b4. Probably white was thinking if I play c4, then knight will go to b4 and try to take the bishop. Okay, so white played a3, and then that won't happen. Also, a3 is the mirror image of h6, so black is in zugzwang and therefore resigned. Class dismissed. Oh, no, wait a minute, I didn't make 10 more Simpsons jokes. Okay, so black castled and c4, so you were right. And as you all know, c4 is, there you go, that's why you sat close, so you could get that in. Okay, now if this was the Wednesday class, any legal, or Wednesday nights, any legal move is possible here, like knight c3, knight e3, okay. And in fact, when we were walking over here from the king's side, we saw a game in progress where, again, any legal move or illegal move was possible. Okay, but these are the finest players in the country, so black saved her knight. Nice. Okay, and knight takes c5, not a move I would play, but the point is, a3 has another idea, which we're going to find out right now, which is to play b4 and fianchetto our bishop. So once again, white has a lead in development, 3 minor pieces to 2. White has more space on the queen side, but a favorite grandmaster of mine, who I haven't heard from in a while, Ilya Gurevich. I had to go back in the tank for that one. Ilya Gurevich, even though you've never heard of him, except for Spencer, was world junior champion. So you should be ashamed, and he's American. Okay, and Ilya once was talking to some random guy, and I was listening, and he wasn't talking about E.F. Hutton. Man, how many of you at home are going to get that? Okay, even Spencer didn't get that. So Ilya Gurevich once told somebody, the pawn structure of 4 and 2, notice there's 4 pawns there and 2 pawns there, is better than 3 and 3. And he gave no explanation why. But he's higher rated than me, so okay. And in my opinion, he's correct. The reason he's correct, usually when you have 3 and 3, you have no center pawns. It's good to have center pawns, as you'll notice later in the game. You'll be like, who's center pawns? Okay, so white has no center pawns, and black has a center pawn, which is blocking his bishop. So Lisa wouldn't like that. Okay. And that explains the move b6. Black wants to play bishop b7 and have her bishop developed. Okay, knight e5, very aggressive. Bishop b7, queen e2, queen c7, f4. Okay, and this is what we call a super aggressive non-Anish Giri move. Anish Giri wouldn't like this move. He would take black here because black's very passive. Okay, and he would have offered to draw every move and Tatev would decline. No, none of that would happen. Okay, although Tatev might decline. All right, so f4, playing for an attack on the king's side because we can play f5 and our bishops are rolling over here to the king. The queen can come over here. White's definitely going to do a rook lift, or as Jen Shahadi calls it, a rover. Gotta see if you guys are paying attention. So Tatev wasn't sure how to improve her game with pieces, so she attacks with pawns. f4, rawr. Okay, rook fd8, ignoring everything. Now, rook fd8 would scare me because f7 is weaker now. And in fact, Alejandro wrote, I'm not sure the rook wants to be here, keeping the audience confused. Okay, I like that. Maybe it does, but he's not sure. And I would actually say that too, because I'm afraid to move my rook away from my king. Okay, rook ae1, here comes the attack. Bishop to d6. Okay, so it's funny, the bishops are symmetrically placed, d3 and b2, b7 and d6, and the pawn structure is different. White has less pawns on the king's side, but is still attacking. White has more pawns on the queen side, but is ignoring that. I don't care about that. Okay, so that's what happens. F5, rawr. Okay, good annotations. He didn't write rawr. Okay, now one of the problems a lot of women have in the U.S. Women's Championship is occasionally they get in time trouble. Okay, maybe they study Ray Robson's games and they're like, oh boy, time trouble. That's how I get to 2,700. Okay, and this game was no exception. Now, when you get into time trouble, which the kids are confused about, they're like, what's that mean? Okay, it doesn't mean you're home late from school. So for example, the time controls 40 moves in some number of minutes, maybe 90, maybe 100. If you're a normal person and you're a grandmaster and you get into time trouble sometimes, you might have to make 4 to 7 moves in less than 5 minutes. So you're moving pretty quickly. Okay. In some of the US championships and US women's championships, they get into horrible time trouble where you're just moving really fast. Now, luckily, the chess clock has changed. The kids are confused because the chess clock's been the same since you've been alive. But when I was alive, not now, when I was alive, okay, we didn't have this like 30-second increment and 5-second delay. You just had whatever time you had. So if you had 2 minutes on your clock and you had to make 20 moves, good luck. Now you get 30 seconds a move, so nobody cares. But if you have 30 seconds a move every move, and you have to play perfect, that's not easy. I mean, you can do it, but it's not easy. Okay, so here we're on move 19. The players are about to get into time trouble. And then they don't play so well because you can't figure everything out. Okay, rook e8, exclam. Because the rook wasn't well placed on d8, it's much better when your rook is opposing a queen and it defends e6. Okay, and also it's psychologically very good. First of all, she played the French, psyching on her opponent, because that's what Tatev plays. Second, she's moving her rook back and forth. It looks like it's a mistake. Haha, my opponent obviously made a mistake when playing rook d8. I have to punish that mistake. If you can't find a winning line, you have to find one anyway. Otherwise, your opponent played rook d8 and e8 and you didn't punish her. So bishop b1, so the queen can go in front of the bishop and queen h7 mate. Knight g4 was the move I was looking at. That's the move Alejandro was analyzing. That looks like white has a pretty big attack here, right? Knight takes, threatening queen g7 mate, bishop h2, king h1, queen g3, defending the mate. Shocking. It's pretty good defense. Queen g7, bishop g7. Both bishops are hanging, and Alejandro says, I prefer white, but black is all right. Again, what does he mean? Okay, yeah, okay, white's better, but probably a draw. So that's what white should have done. But if you analyze a variation like that, and you're like, I'm not winning, my opponent lost a tempo, my opponent has black, I should be winning. So you try to find something maybe you don't have. Okay, bishop b1, always retreat. E takes f5, opening up the line against the queen. Rook takes f5, exciting. Now, I wonder if the 3 means she thought 3 minutes or has 3 minutes left. We'll never know.
3 seconds.
Oh, it took 3 seconds to play rook f5? Nice. Seems a little fast. Okay, and then queen e7, question mark. According to Alejandro and his computer, knight d7 was the right move, putting tremendous pressure on the knight, although hanging the f-pawn. So now everything is hanging and pinned, confusing everybody. And probably Annie looked at knight d7 and thought it was too dangerous. But if you have a computer running, then you got no problem. So when you see games between players and there's a lot of errors and they're like more precise play, then we know nobody's using a computer. Okay, when they play perfect every move and you're rated like 1,300, very suspicious, especially online. Those guys online play great. Okay, now let's get back to the Simpsons because this is ridiculous. Why would we talk about chess without the Simpsons? Okay, one time Bart wasn't in school, which makes sense, right? And he was giving a simultaneous in the park. And the true story, based on a true story. And there was a big crowd. They're like, wow, look at this kid playing chess. He's playing several people at once. And then they all checkmated him at the same time. And then unlike his normal character, when they all checkmated him, he said, don't, which he stole from Homer. That's not really fair. Another scene where he's playing in the park, he's playing Rabbi Krastovsky's playing Krusty's father. I don't know who won that game. They didn't show the result. I'm assuming Krusty's father could beat Bart. Okay, back to chess. Queen e7, not playing knight d7, attacking the pin knight. Queen c2, now you know why Tatev played bishop b1. Here comes the checkmating attack. Both sides are in time trouble, and both kings are exposed. The knight on e5 is pinned. Everybody's confused. Who's the most confused? We have a prize for that. Anyone? No, what about the people at home? Right? They can't even hear me because they don't know how to adjust their volume. So they're in the comments. I can't hear this. I'm too stupid to use my computer. Send me a new computer. Okay? Yeah. Okay, that's what they're doing that too. All right, it is true. They have good comments on YouTube like, I can't hear this. The next guy, I hear it fine. Well, I can't hear it. Well, I can hear it. It's good. You're really getting places there. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing they can figure out how to write comments and they can't how the computer works. Okay, so g6, stopping queen h7 mate. For example, if it was white's move, rook takes f6 would be annoying because the queen's going to h7, the knight's going to d7. Yeah, scary. Okay, g6. Now this lethal combination is slightly less lethal. And rook f4, seeing the rook was attacked. a5. a5 is a very nice move. It's not a nice move because it's a nice move. I don't care about that. Anybody can make a good move. Okay, the reason it's a nice move is that, especially when I'm playing chess or when I'm showing a puzzle to a student, their head always tilts. They decide that most of the board doesn't matter. They're like, Okay, for example, one of the finest chess players in Michigan, Rita Finegold, she always says that things are too busy. Okay, she would say this table is too busy. It's got a computer, it's got flowers, it has a mouse, it has a phone, it's too busy. She doesn't like all that stuff. And a lot of my students, they say the same thing. They just don't say the word busy. They say, oh, there's too many pieces. I can't solve this puzzle. Okay, so they take some pieces off the board, then they can solve it. All right, so the chessboard has a lot of pieces on it. The chessboard's very busy. Normally, when somebody's mating you and you're defending, you're not thinking of the move a5. So when a5 is the correct move and it has the right strategical idea, that's very hard to find, especially in time trouble. So she took 459 seconds? Man, no, it was hard to find. Okay, and the point of a5 is we're attacking everything over here, activating the rook, activating the bishop, and most importantly, we're getting the c5 square for the bishop. Bishop c5 is going to come in very handy. And with the pawn on b4, bishop c5 is not very good. Okay, so a5 is actually an excellent move, and in time trouble, white decided to blunder by playing the move queen f2. If your opponent wants to play bishop c5, these aren't the right squares for your pieces. Okay, strategically, that's obvious to everybody, but for Tatev and for many chess players, you're just analyzing variations. And you're like, nah, bishop c5, that doesn't work. Then when it does work, you're like, man, why did I play queen f2? So the recommendation of the computer is to retreat the rook back to f1. So we sort of get rid of this pin on the rook. And then our rook is defending our other rook, so our knight can move, and so forth. Right, and as Alejandro wrote, it's hard to play the move rook f1 after you play the move rook f4. Sort of like it's hard to play the move a5 when everybody's playing on the king side. Okay, so queen f2, threatening the knight. If the knight moves away, we take on f7. And if you defend the knight, I wouldn't do that with the white bishop on b2. No, don't do that. Okay, so it looks good. You're threatening the knight can't be defended, the knight can't move. And when she played rook f4, obviously her intention was to double or triple on the f-file and do some kind of reversed Alekine's gum with a twist. Okay, so black ignored the knight by playing AB. Very good. I want to be positive about that remark, not negative. Nothing? No? Very well, that's because we're blood. Bam. All right, so the truth hurts. Okay, now the reason black played AB, other than Spencer said so, and gave the knight away was now we have bishop c5. The problem with playing f4, f5 and checkmating your opponent, sounds good, is you don't have an f pawn. So then when they attack you on the diagonal, you want your pawn back on f2. But too bad. Okay, rook takes knight, double question mark, ignoring the opponent. King h1 was the right move, although that's tough when the person's taking your whole queen side. And she saw bishop c5, I assume. She had to have seen bishop c5, because black just played AB. Okay, bishop c5. Now what does white do? Bishop d4, as suggested by the audience. Well, according to your mathematics, she did it in 5 seconds. So that means that she saw bishop c5. And she was like, bishop d4, no problem. Isn't the white queen overworked? All right. Yeah, isn't that some kind of overwork? Yeah. Now, there's 2 things that I do when I'm playing somebody really young. I play zero theory, although here Annie played h6, so she took care of that. And there's no tactics. It's the most boring game ever. Then when my opponent falls asleep, I turn their clock, even though they're digital now, because I'm old, and then their flag falls. And they're like, what's a flag and what's this? Kids. Okay, so here you see the queen is overworked, just like me. Right? You agree, Luke?
No.
What do I mean? What? All right. See, I can't make that joke. Moving on. Okay, bishop d4, queen f6. Not only is black up material, but white's got nothing. White's all pinned. Terrible. Now, if you ask many grandmasters, why would white do that? Why would white play rook takes f6 and all bishop c5? There's 2 reasons. One is time trouble. If white thought 10, 15, 20 minutes here, white's not playing rook takes f6. But in time trouble, thought 39 seconds, thought 5 seconds, and then you lose all your pieces. The pieces are all defended, but one piece is defending them both. So you don't want to play a tactical melee against somebody very young because they're good at tactics. But what are they good at strategical chess when they play chess for 1 year? Okay. What are they, Frank? Okay, anybody get the Frank joke? You? That's it? Frank's 4. So. All right, so now the game's totally over. In fact, it says it's truly over. Annotations by Lionel Richie. Very good. Okay, AB. Now I'm going to be negative about that move. Queen g5, threatening. You can get this at home. Give him about 10 minutes. I don't think the audience can get it. What do you think? Wow, you threw your voice good. You sounded just like Iris. Okay, queen g2 mate. g3, that's the safest king ever. Rook d8, attacking the queen. Queen b6, very suspicious. Rook e5, and then lots of nonsense notes from Alejandro. Now, black's up a rook, and all of white's pieces are horrible. Okay, and threatening rook takes rook. Here, white resigned, or possibly lost on time. Probably resigned. After you trade, although I can't take this because I'll lose my rook, I have to play a Zwischenzug. I hate doing that. And then here, the computer will probably show some forced mate, although queen takes rook should win handily.
I think it'll play that.
Yeah, threatening queen e1, queen b2, rook takes bishop, queen, no, that's it. Queen d4 would be a rook up. And yeah, we're a rook up for nothing and white's getting mated. Okay, and without this Zwischenzug, if we just take the rook like I would do, then here, I don't know, probably black is still better, right? Because the king's no good. Yeah, I think black's still better, but probably draw. Okay, so that was played by a very young Annie. That was actually in last year's championship, not this year. Now, the next game we're going to look at is by me. I mean by you. Nice. Did I pay him? No, Jennifer, you. Now, of course, I couldn't show the whole game because that would mean I'm working more. And I'm already overworked from the last game. Okay, so this is a game played this year, and this was probably the only time in history where Anna and Irina Krush lost on the same day in the U.S. women's. Okay, neither one having a good tournament. And Jennifer Yu was white against Anna, and they were in terrible time trouble, which is good for the audience, but bad for the player. But who's more important, the spectator or the players? Okay, and as you know, Anna was involved in some chicanery earlier, many years ago. She had a very funny match with Irina Krush with no delay and no increment, and they were both moving in less than 1 second, and Anna became the U.S. Women's Champion. Very suspicious game. Okay, now here we're on move 40. Move 40, 41, time trouble, that's where everybody's blundering. That's Lulu's only problem. I've seen Lulu play 38 moves perfect, and then in time trouble, she blows it. Terrible, right? There's only one solution for that. Crab Rangoon. Okay. No, she agreed. Yeah, she agreed. Okay, so remember, anybody can try their best. I want you to win. Homer said that. I get some Simpsons in there. All right, so this position has been a back and forth game. White's not doing so great here. And this position, Jennifer played rook b to b1. Actually, Tatev should have played rook f to f1. It's a rich tapestry. Okay, and this obviously defends a little bit more, not too much. Now it's move 40, and Anna made a mistake. She should take advantage of the pinned e-pawn and play what aggressive move? f5. And after f5, takes. If we play f4, which looks good, probably why she didn't play f5, we sacrifice. You can't take the knight because rook takes rook check. Takes. This is actually very funny. Material is about equal. Maybe you prefer white a little material-wise. But the beautiful knight on d5 has nowhere to go. Very strange. Usually a knight on d5 is good. Here you're going to lose it. Also, white's king is a little suspicious. And after the move queen b3, threatening everything, knight everywhere check, we play king f8, and surprisingly, there's no defense to the very simple rook d8. In fact, in Luke's game yesterday, he could have taken that d-pawn by playing rook to d8 and queen c5. All right, but that's a different story. And the knight's just trapped on d5, and the computer says white is completely lost here. Okay, I'm assuming Anna saw f4, and with her flag falling, didn't want to allow a fork of her rook and knight. So she played rook e6, and now f4 doesn't fork her rook and knight. Okay, and now we get to move 41. Now most people incorrectly believe that once you get to time control, then you chill out, you get some orange juice, you're like, oh, it's not the time control, I lose. Bam, you got that right? Okay, good. And then you think for 20 minutes and you play perfect. Usually when you get to move 41, you're so frazzled by time trouble, you just can't play anymore. Like you can't calculate, you're not used to going from 3 seconds a move to 20 minutes a move, and you just play badly. So there's a lot of mistakes on move 41. f4, and now Anna made a bad move. The correct move is very hard to play. It also takes advantage of the pin. Let's call in a random student, Spencer.
Wasn't sure. I was thinking queen d5 though.
Queen d5 exclam. That's right. And probably white can draw. It's possible Anna saw everything, and she's like, I'm not drawing this game. So she decided losing was better. I've made those decisions myself. Okay, so takes. Okay, and now rook e3, and after queen f1, which is forced, so you don't lose the h-pawn, d3, and every move is forced. Every move is double exclam. Takes, d2. All right, and white has one move that doesn't lose here. I can't. Oh, yeah, I can do this, yeah. What if he does? King h2 instead of king f2 was considered worse. I think because of rook e3. Yeah, the computer didn't like king h2, but I have no idea why. I actually looked at it, but then I was working so hard I forgot. King f2 is slightly better than king h2. Slightly. Actually, you'll see why in a second. Okay. Now, what's the only move for white? Resign? No, the positions should be a draw. But white has one move. It seems to me if I had black and I saw all of this, I would do it because white has trouble finding the right move now. This isn't easy. Yeah, probably she just thought, I'm not sacking my queen, I'll just win later. But there was no later. What's that? No, then I play rook e1, check, and queen. Yeah. Bishop f3, yeah, it's the only move. Yeah. And then black's better, but probably a draw. Okay, so that was the correct way of playing. And it's possible Anna saw, if she played queen d5, that a draw was likely, and she thought, I'm not drawing this game. I got to win. So she retreated her knight. e5. Yeah, now black's game is not very good, because white's advancing her pawns. The knight on d5 is great. The knight on h7 is terrible. Now white has a big advantage. Okay, so queen b8, retreating the queen. And after g5, very interesting move, white made a very strong move here, which takes advantage of pawn moves. Okay, so Bart Simpson-esque, I'm a pawn. When you move a pawn, you can't move it backwards. It's true. Although actually when I saw the game outside when we came here. Okay, so the move g5 does two things that are bad. It gives squares away that were defended, and it gives away this diagonal. So white takes advantage of that by playing bishop e4. Yeah, that's an annoying move. If the pawn was on g6, that would be much less annoying. I would tell my student here to play g6. Then they look at me funny, but I still take their check and cash it. Okay, queen d8, which doesn't defend the knight, but it attacks white's knight in return if you do take it. So that's actually a good move. King f1, and it's zugzwang. King f1 is a good move actually because it defends the rooks, and more importantly, it gets off this diagonal. So there's no d3 check, which would be bad. I tried to show you games where black has a bishop on c5 and white has a king on g1, except this time white's king moved to f1 instead of getting crushed. King f1, what's the problem? Okay, rook h6, bishop takes knight, queen takes. Obviously, if rook takes h7, knight f6 is annoying. Always retreat. And f5. Okay, now here the computer says white's up +1, +1.5. If Fabiano was here, and I just talked to his parents earlier, he would be like, what? White's crushing black. Rawr. Okay, because black's position is terrible. The rook on h6 doesn't make any sense. This bishop is a blockaded bishop. I'm advancing my majority. Terrible. Okay, and here Anna uncharacteristically blundered. I cannot explain this blunder. I don't know what she was thinking. I don't think she was in time trouble yet. You can get in time trouble again. And one of the reasons this is a blunder is when your opponent lets you take something for free, you should be like, why did they do that? And if you're playing tactically against a young player like Jennifer Yu, who was the world youth champion for her age, they're probably not making big tactical mistakes. Strategically, positionally, and with her experience, Anna could try to slowly outplay Jennifer, but not a one-move tactic. Jennifer's too good. And she played rook takes e5, a terrible blunder. Iris is shocked. This game was played only a few months ago. I'm sure Iris remembers what the refutation was. Bishop c6. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah. And now we're attacking everything. I have no idea what Anna didn't see.
Maybe she thought f6, bishop f5, and then she's getting a lot of pawns.
She just didn't see bishop c6? Man, that's not good. Now we're attacking everything. And that's about it. Okay, rook e3, yum, yum, yum. And then black played down a rook, but white's up a rook. So, yeah, not good being down a rook. And, okay, and after being down a rook for quite a long time, and now losing the d4 pawn. Spencer knows what I'm talking about. I lost my d4, okay, now I resign. Yeah. Spencer really knows what I'm talking about. Man, if only he knew, if only you knew what we knew, but you don't. Yeah. You'll never know. You don't want to know who we know. Yeah. Horrible. So those were two good games by two of America's young stars, Annie Wang and Jennifer Yu. Annie's playing right now in Soviet Russia, where chess plays you. Although it's Annie Wang, not you. So anyway, Annie has 5 out of 7 as we speak. When you guys watch the video at home, you'll be like, no, she doesn't. She has 7 out of 9. Okay. Well, you'll see it in 2 or 3 days. So I hope you like my lecture better than the other Grandmaster who did a lecture yesterday, Grandmaster Ken West. Yeah, he did, yeah. And I asked the funny question. I said, how much does Ken West get paid for doing a lecture? And the answer is, who knows the answer? There's an actual answer. This isn't a joke. Everything else was a joke. Very close. 1 month membership to the chess club. Okay, so I hope you liked my Simpsons, non-Simpsons lecture. Chess of the 21st century, go USA. We're going to win a lot of medals in Russia. I'm not going to win the medals in Russia. So, but we're the best. All right, I hope you enjoy the festivities. I hope you had a lot to drink before you came here, especially the kids. And I hope you have a lot to drink at home. I'm out.